The fog rolled in before sunset, thick and gray as wool. It always came early on Halloween in Hallow's Edge, a New England town so small it didn't appear on most maps. Locals had learned long ago to stay indoors when the fog came, to light their porch lanterns and whisper the old rhyme. Keep your lantern burning bright, to guard your soul on Hallow's night. But Eli Turner didn't believe in ghost stories. He was a 34-year-old journalist from Boston, driving into Hallow's Edge in a rusted Ford pickup with a thermos of coffee and a notepad full of skepticism. His editor had sent him to write a seasonal special about local folklore, the Lantern Man, a supposed ghost that haunted the town every October 31st. According to legend, the Lantern Man had once been a gravedigger named Samuel Pike, who'd stolen from the dead until the spirits came for him. His body was found in 1823, burned beyond recognition, except for his head, which had been replaced by a carved pumpkin. The curse began that year. Each Halloween, the Lantern Man would walk the fog, seeking the light of a soul to replace his own. Ridiculous, Eli thought. Still, the paycheck was real enough. He parked outside the Wick and Flame, the town's only bar. Inside, the air smelled of wood smoke and cider. Conversation died when he entered. "Evening," Eli said, flashing his press badge. "I'm doing a piece on your Lantern Man. Mind if I ask a few?" "Don't say his name." The bartender, an old man with a clouded left eye, interrupted. "Not on Hallows Eve." Eli smiled. "Superstition, huh?" "No," said a woman at the bar. "Survival." The room went silent again. Someone lit another lantern. Outside, the fog pressed thick against the windows like breath. By nightfall, Eli was wandering the town square, dictating notes into his recorder. He found the old cemetery at the edge of town, its gate chained shut but easy enough to climb. Fog clung to the tombstones like spider silk. He noticed something strange, a line of iron lanterns placed every few feet, leading deep into the graveyard. Each burned with a weak orange flame. He followed them, curiosity tugging him forward. At the center stood a weathered statue of a man holding a lantern, its face eroded by time. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Samuel Pike, Keeper of the Light." "Found you," Eli murmured, snapping photos. His flash briefly illuminated something behind the statue, movement, or maybe just mist. Then, the nearest lantern flickered out. And another. And another. Within seconds, the entire row of lights went dark except one, the lantern in his own hand. Eli's heart began to hammer. A voice drifted through the fog, low and rasping, like a flame starving for air. "You broke the path, now light must pay the price." He spun around, recorder raised. "Who's there?" The mist shifted. A figure emerged, tall, draped in a black coat that shimmered like smoke. Where its head should have been was a carved pumpkin, grinning wide, its insides burning with fire. In one skeletal hand, it held a rusted lantern. In the other, a spade dripping with mud. Eli stumbled backward, tripping over a gravestone. He snapped a photo. The flash revealed dozens of ghostly shapes behind the figure, the hollow-eyed faces of the dead. He ran. The fog seemed alive, clutching at his clothes, whispering that old rhyme over and over, each word twisting. "Keep your lantern burning bright, or lose your soul this Hallows night." Eli burst back into town, gasping, slamming on the tavern door. The bartender opened it only a crack. "You saw him, didn't you?" Eli nodded, trembling. "He's real. He said I broke the path." The old man's face paled. "You fool. Those lanterns mark the line between the living and the dead. Each year we light them, to keep him bound to the cemetery." Eli looked at the lantern still in his hand, the one he'd taken for light. Its flame was nearly out. "If that goes dark," the bartender whispered, "so will you." Eli backed away, clutching the lantern. He could feel something watching from the fog that now swirled through the streets, drawn to him. He ran toward the town's edge, toward the cemetery, desperate to replace the lantern where it belonged. But the path was gone. The fog had swallowed everything. He lit his phone screen for light, only to see a reflection in the glass. A jack-o'-lantern grin, right behind him. The lantern man spoke softly. "Your light burns bright, but mine burns longer." Eli screamed as the flame in his lantern went out. By dawn, the fog had lifted. The townsfolk found a new lantern burning in the cemetery, right beside Samuel Pike's statue. Inside it, a modern smartphone flickered faintly, displaying the last recording Eli ever made. "Keep your lantern burning." And through the static, a new voice whispered, "Now I am the keeper." That night, the bartender added another verse to the old rhyme, carved into the bar's oak wall with a knife. "For every soul who breaks the chain, the lantern man shall rise again." And in the town square, where fog gathers each October, one lantern always burns, steady, silent, watching. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Clara Hensley arrived at Blackwell Manor. The massive estate loomed over the countryside like a bruise, its dark stone walls slick with water, its windows reflecting nothing but storm clouds. Clara, a 38-year-old real estate agent, had sold plenty of old houses before. But this one felt hungry. She stepped out of her car, clutching her umbrella and the heavy brass key the bank had mailed her. The note that came with it was brief. "Do not enter after dusk. The mirrors do not sleep." Clara had laughed when she read that, some old local superstition, probably left over from when the Blackwell family owned half the county. The last heir, Beatrice Blackwell, had died in the 1920s, found in the east parlor, surrounded by shattered glass. But Clara wasn't here for ghost stories. She was here for a sale. The housing company wanted it appraised, photographed, and listed by Halloween. And today was Halloween. Inside, the house greeted her with silence thick enough to muffle the rain. The air smelled faintly of old perfume and damp velvet. Her flashlight beam swept across portraits of people with pale faces and watchful eyes. Each painting was glazed, not with varnish, but with mirrors inset into the frame. Everywhere she turned, the house reflected her 100 Claras in different corners, each moving a heartbeat too slow. She laughed nervously. "Just architecture, Clara. Victorians loved a theme." But as she turned away from one mirror, her reflection didn't. It smiled. By dusk, the rain had turned to mist. Clara was photographing the East Wing, the room where Beatrice Blackwell had died. The parlor was breathtaking, cracked wallpaper, a marble fireplace, and one enormous floor-to-ceiling mirror framed in gold leaf. Its surface was spotless, as if someone still polished it daily. Clara raised her camera. The flash went off, and in that instant, she saw another figure in the reflection. A woman in a black gown standing right beside her. Clara whirled. No one there. She stared into the mirror again. The woman was closer now, her pale face almost pressing against the glass, eyes black as ink. Clara stumbled back, heart hammering. Okay, hallucination. Stress. Low blood sugar. She turned to leave, but the door had vanished, replaced by more wall, more mirrors. Her reflection multiplied infinitely, filling the room with distorted versions of herself. The woman in black began to move, raising one delicate hand to the glass. A faint crack snaked outward from where her fingers touched, like ice forming on a pond. Clara screamed and threw her flashlight. It hit the mirror, but instead of shattering, it passed through. The flashlight clattered onto the other side of the glass, its beam flickering across a room that looked exactly like this one, except the mirrors there were empty. No reflection, no Clara. And then from behind her came a whisper, in her own voice. "You shouldn't have come after dark." Clara's breath came in shallow bursts. She turned, searching for the door, but the room seemed to stretch endlessly, a hall of mirrors looping into itself. Every reflection stared at her, but none moved when she did. Some looked afraid. Others smiled cruelly. One, directly across from her, began to speak, though Clara's lips stayed still. "We've waited for someone new," the reflection said. "She promised us we could leave when another took her place." Clara's throat went dry. "Who promised you?" The reflection's grin widened. "Beatrice." Behind her, the woman in black emerged from the mirror fully, her skin glassy, her eyes twin pools of mercury. She held the flashlight Clara had dropped. Its light flickered dimly, as though struggling against her shadow. "You woke us," Beatrice whispered. "Every mirror is a doorway. Every reflection a prisoner." Clara stumbled back, bumping into another mirror. The surface rippled like water, and a cold hand seized her wrist from inside. Her other reflections began to claw, pressing against their glass prisms, desperate to trade places. Beatrice reached out, fingers brushing Clara's cheek. "Only one of us may walk free." Clara screamed as the world inverted, the air filled with shattering glass and blinding light. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the parlor again. The house was quiet. The mirrors were gone, every single one shattered, shards glittering like frost on the floor. She staggered outside into the dawn, breathing hard. Her car waited by the gate, wet with dew. Somehow, she'd made it through the night. But as she looked into the car's side mirror, her reflection didn't move. It smiled slowly, and whispered, from behind the glass. "Thank you, Beatrice." The listing for Blackwell Manor went up 2 weeks later. The photos Clara took were stunning, perfectly lit, perfectly symmetrical. There was just one problem. In every photo, standing in the corner of the room, was Clara Hensley, smiling into the lens. Only Clara didn't remember posing for them. And in the final image, taken in the east parlor, her reflection wasn't smiling at all. It was knocking on the inside of the mirror. The road to Ashwood Hollow hadn't changed. It was still narrow, still flanked by towering oaks that arched overhead like ribs closing around a spine. Marcus Hale drove slowly, headlights cutting through the fog. In the passenger seat sat June, his sister, scrolling her phone. In the back, their childhood friends Adam and Tessa argued about whether they should have come at all. It had been 20 years since they'd last spent Halloween here, the little town where they'd grown up, where they'd once roamed the streets in cheap plastic masks, filling pillowcases with candy. Marcus smiled faintly. "One night. That's all. We walk the old route, have a few laughs, relive the glory days." "Glory days?" Tessa muttered. "You mean the night we all swore we saw lights in the woods and your brother disappeared for 3 hours?" June looked up sharply. "Don't start." Adam laughed uneasily. "Relax. We were kids. Probably just got lost." But Marcus didn't answer. Because deep down, he remembered something else, a voice in the forest whispering his name that night, a light that had flickered ahead of him, beckoning him off the trail. He hadn't told anyone that the light had spoken. Now, 20 years later, it was calling him back. They reached the edge of the old trail as night settled in. The town lay silent behind them, pumpkins glowing faintly on porches, distant laughter from trick-or-treaters echoing through the fog. Ahead, the path to Ashwood Hollow Forest yawned like a dark mouth. Marcus lifted his flashlight. "One last Halloween," he said. "For old times." And the forest seemed to whisper back. "Welcome home." The forest was quieter than they remembered. Even their footsteps seemed swallowed by the fog. "Feels smaller," Adam said. "Feels wrong," June replied. The old trail markers were still there, faded ribbons tied to branches, but the air was colder, heavier, as though it were breathing against them. They walked for nearly an hour, yet when Marcus checked his phone, the map showed no progress. They hadn't moved at all. Tessa frowned. Okay, that's impossible. The fog thickened until they could barely see 10 feet ahead. Then came the bells, faint and hollow, like chimes made of bone, ringing somewhere deeper in the woods. Marcus froze. He knew that sound. He'd heard it the night he vanished as a child, right before the lights came. And then, as if on cue, the lights appeared again, pale orange orbs drifting between the trees, bobbing like lanterns held by invisible hands. The others gasped. Probably pranksters, Adam said, though his voice trembled. But Marcus stepped forward, drawn. No, they're showing us the way. The others shouted for him to stop, but the forest swallowed their voices. Branches shifted. Roots twisted underfoot. When Marcus turned, the others were gone. The lights pulsed brighter, forming a trail deeper into the hollow. He followed. At the center of the woods stood an enormous tree, gnarled and ancient, its bark blackened like burnt flesh. Dozens of lanterns hung from its branches, and inside each one, a flickering light that looked almost human. Marcus felt warmth on his face, like standing near a bonfire. He realized, with dawning horror, that each lantern contained a soul, faces pressed against the glass, mouths open in silent screams. Then one of them opened its eyes. "You came back," it whispered. "We waited for you." Marcus stumbled back, tripping over roots. The voices grew louder, hundreds of them, whispering from the lanterns. He covered his ears, but the words seeped through. "You took what wasn't yours. You lit the way and left us here." The fog around the great tree shimmered, and out stepped a figure made of bark and smoke, eyes like dying embers. It was the forest keeper, the spirit of Ashwood Hollow itself. "Do you remember?" it asked. Marcus shook his head, trembling. "You were chosen to carry the flame. To lead the lost out of darkness. But you ran. You left the light to die." Flashes came back to him, as a boy, following the lights, seeing the great tree, being handed a lantern that pulsed like a heartbeat. He had panicked, dropped it, and fled. And when the flame died, the forest had taken his place, trapping the others who wandered after. Tears burned his eyes. "How do I fix it?" The keeper extended its hand, wooden, cracking, yet human-shaped. "Light the heart again. Offer what was taken." A single lantern swung down from the branches. Inside it burned a small, steady flame. Marcus reached for it, but his reflection appeared in the glass, and it wasn't moving like him. It was smiling. June's voice echoed faintly through the fog. "Marcus. Where are you?" He turned, clutching the lantern. "Stay back." But the forest shifted again, roots writhing, fog closing in. The lantern's flame flared, pulling at his chest like a tether. He understood then, the offering wasn't an object. It was a soul. Marcus took a deep breath. If this is what it takes. He pressed his palm against the lantern. Fire surged through his veins. The forest screamed, a sound of wind, wood, and voices, as the tree blazed to life. The hanging lanterns shattered one by one, releasing streams of light that spiraled upward, vanishing into the stars. When the others finally found him, the tree was gone. So was Marcus. In its place stood a single new lantern, burning softly atop a moss-covered stone. Inside it, a faint shadow moved, watching. By sunrise, the forest had fallen silent again. June, Adam, and Tessa never spoke about what they'd seen. The police found their car, but no sign of Marcus. Every Halloween since, a soft orange light is seen drifting through the woods, one lone lantern weaving between the trees, guiding lost travelers back to town. Locals call it the Flame Keeper. They say if you follow it, it'll lead you safely out of Ashwood Hollow. But if you thank it aloud, you'll never make it home.